Hello everyone, good evening, and it's time for Business Live with me, Charles Aite. Coming up in the headlines, Finance Minister announces 100 billion city COVID-19 alleviation program as he presents the mid-year review and estimates to government. Also, as government reduces the CST from 9 to 5%, we find out from the NITA boss what this means to the ordinary Ghanaian. And later in the bulletin, be rest assured to save your utility bills for other expenditure because the finance minister says it has been postponed. We'll give you details on all these coming up shortly. Now, it's been a very busy day in Parliament today. Finance Minister has announced major interventions in the mid-year review, an estimate including 100 billion city COVID-19 alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support program. They call it Ghana Cares. Let's listen to the Finance Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while fiscal consolidation and stellar macroeconomic performance are critical to robust and sustainable economy, President Akufo-Addo believes that this must reflect first and foremost in improvements in the everyday life of, as we know, my fellow Ghanaians. Consistent with this belief, government for the past 3.5 years have been implementing a number of flagship programming to spearhead a broad-based economic and social transformation and deliver these fundamental services to all Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, progress has been made in the implementation of these flagship programs with significant achievements in the implementation of the free senior high school, planting for food and jobs, one district, one factory, infrastructure for poverty eradication program, and Nation Builders Corps, amongst others. Soon to add 111 hospitals. These programs have brought needed reliefs and impacted positively on all the lives of all ordinary citizens. Mr. Speaker, free senior high school has saved parents and guardians a cumulative total amount of 3.2 billion since 2017, and that is money in their pockets and investments in their future. This intervention has sustained the schooling of 1,199,750 students to date, a marked increase from the 813,443 students enrolled in 2016 and 2017. Mr. Speaker, the Kufuor government in 2005-20 and 2006 academic year rolled out the Ghana School Feeding Program to provide at least one meal to school children in deprived communities between 2016 and now. The feeding program, Mr. Speaker, has been extended to reach 2,980,000 pupils in deprived communities, representing, Mr. Speaker, an increase of 78.3% in beneficiaries.
Well, we're going to be breaking down every stage of the mid-year review and estimate today. Former Finance Minister Seth Terkper is joining us via Zoom to help us understand his clear perspective on this particular presentation this day. Hello, sir. Many thanks for having us here on Business Live. So first of all, what were your highlights? What were the highlights for you in this particular budget?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first for me is, I would say, a disappointment. You know, that the government has not aligned itself to the deficit level. It keeps repeating that our deficit was 4.7 at the end of 2019. That is not what Fitch believes. That's not what IMF believes. That's not what Moody's believes. And just yesterday, that is not what EIU believes. And so I think we should be very clear as Ghanaians that there is a wide gap between what the government is telling us and what these international agencies are telling us. That's my first. Also, I think there are too many general statements. For example, to say that this is the first time in 25 years, you know, that Africa is going to go into recession. Is it Africa as a continent, and what's the measure? Average.
Well, he was basing most of these projections. He was basing most of these projections on IMF figures and even that of the World Bank. We have seen for sure that most of these, organizations have reviewed downwards the projections for the world economy. COVID-19, they claim, is the main reasons for that.
Please, just if you be patient. Yes, I follow the IMF Outlook presentations online. He made a categorical statement that 25 years. I don't think that the fund made such that Africa is going to a recession. Most of Africa. Because during the global financial crisis, Nigeria went into recession. South Africa is still in a recession. Angola went into recession. Many countries, 2016 in particular. Ghana and a few were the only ones that didn't go into recession. But those are just my general. But the key one is the non-adjustment. And I think we are seeing a phenomenon where, unlike 2016, he spoke about the contracts. I think we'll have time to look at this in detail.
Exactly.
Yes. But we are going to, I think we should be prepared. We are going into 2021 without doubt that the deficit is going to be in excess, no matter what we are told. It's going to be around 12, 13% from the figures. Now, my other quick take is, even if you look at the appropriation, there's only one line that tells us, in the supplementary, 11 billion. There's no details. I haven't seen it. What you see are long details on roads, the traditional areas, and other areas of promises. What we would have expected, given the priority of COVID, is, and if we are going to be borrowing some more, and we were told we're going to be very specific on what we are going to be giving private sector. We are only being told now that it's some fund that's going to be created. But the point is that we also miss the opportunity to be told in detail, how much of specific revenue did we spend in different lines. Our budget estimates are very detailed. So we could have been told that under COVID, we spent so much on wages, we spent so much on interest payment, we spent so much, if you can divide all those things. We didn't see any of those. It's a major
Mr. Tekwe, I get your arguments there, but looking at the numbers once again, it's quite clear that we're experiencing literally no economic growth. Of course, the minister has stated that growth margins are to decrease from 6.8 to just about 0.9%. Do you see a possible recession in the offing?
Yeah, well, the IMF has said that we see a recession, already, unless there's a rebound in the second half of the year, as businesses are opening. And if we probably, a vaccine is found, to stem it. But once we are in the second half of the year, July going into August, I don't think that any gains that will be made in the last 4 to 5 months of the year, even if it's discovered in the quarter, will be sufficient to offset, the downturn that so much of the globe is going to go into a downturn, just like the global financial crisis.
Right.
This crisis is different only in severity, but its effects are the same.
Now, take a look at
on our economy.
Great.
Yes.
Take a look at what the finance minister said about our debt stock. When we come back, you give me a reaction to that.
Taking into consideration all these developments, the provisional debt stock as at the end of June 2020 stood at 255.7 billion Ghana cedis, 45.5 billion US dollars, representing 66.36% of GDP. The increase was mainly as a result of a Eurobond issuance of $3 billion in February 2020, exchange rate depreciation, front-loading of expenditures, and the COVID-19 effect, which increased the cedi equivalent of the outstanding debt stock. The total debt stock was made up of 134.9 billion, 23.9 billion US dollars, 120.8 billion Ghana cedis, 21.5 billion US dollars of external and domestic debt, accounting for approximately 52.7% and 47.3% of the total public debt stock, respectively. As a percentage of GDP, external and domestic debt represented 35% and 31.36%, respectively.
Mr. Tekwe, your response?
This is quite clear. Even our debt report, our own debt report says at end of 2019, the debt is 63% already. So how you could be adding 3 billion of sovereign bond and other, yes, the GDP has expanded larger, but it is declining on account of, COVID. So again, I do not know where the figures are coming from. We will see the details and interrogate it, but the point is that we were at 63% even by our own debt report, following what the fund, stated at the end of 2019. So I don't see how 1 billion from the IMF in the first quarter and another 3 billion from our own sovereign bond and other borrowing, World Bank and others, apart from the grants, will all add up and will still remain at 63%. Did we pay down debt, and from which source?
Mr. Sekwe,
that we have been told that it's difficult. We have been told that it's very difficult to even service our debt. So I don't get it.
Mr. Sekwe, what would you have done differently should you be the finance minister?
So what we did, we created a stabilization fund. You don't prepare for crisis during crisis. You prepare for crisis when the times are good. And with one oil field, we created a stabilization fund. With 3 oil fields, very little was added to it. Maybe we should have been withdrawing 500 million if you just do a simple 3 by 1, within 3 years. So we didn't. We didn't prepare for crisis, big or small. We didn't pay down debt using the sinking fund, which the law is very specific. We didn't. We kept adding, and we are just accumulating. So we have had measures, and I believe we are going to be announcing some more. We are very creative, as a party. We created Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, which invested, for example, in Terminal 3, right? If you look at the appendix, the airport is suffering. And yesterday we are going to be reducing the airport tax, which goes to airport company from about 500 to about 300 for a business that is suffering, a sector, tourism, that is suffering. I mean, this is a sort of management of the economy. So I'm saying that infrastructure fund, the money from VAT was stopped. The money from oil revenue, ABFA was stopped. You can't manage crisis, if you are stopping all these initiatives.
Great.
So our record is there to show that we were better prepared in terms of reduction of the first sovereign bond by 500 million from oil revenue, in terms of, the sinking fund that was used to reduce that, the stabilization fund, contingency fund, which was never restored. The amount that is sitting in contingency fund is the stabilization fund that we swept into a contingency fund. That is how you prepare. So it tells you, that we have a better record in terms of, how to manage crisis. And you prepare, let me repeat, for crisis when times are good. When times were good, we were increasing, taxes, right? Rather than reduce the taxes and remove the temporary and other taxes. It's in crisis that you bring in those measures. We increase ESNA, we increase PIT, we change, the NPP, change the band. Those who are taxed at 15% are now being taxed at 17.5%. These were done pre-COVID. And my last point, I insist that we should be able to distinguish between the borrowing that is going for COVID and the borrowing that's not going for COVID. Because if you look at the supplementary budget, that is in the appendix. COVID is just one line. All the rest are traditional areas, of the budget. So it's very, very important.
Mr. Sekwe, we're so grateful. I think we would have to get enough time to expand these discussions, but for the meantime, we're so grateful for your analysis and your thoughts here with us. He is the former finance minister sharing his thoughts. He's described the mid-year budget review and estimate as disappointing. But moving away from Sekwe, let's get to Parliament, where the minority have been reacting to today's presentation, and they've given it all sorts of names. They're saying that it's a manifesto and not a supplementary presentation. Let's listen to them.
For manifestos, it's for him to review the existing budget, not for him to come and read to us a new budget. But what we are seeing, he's not only reading a new budget, but what he has done indeed means that he has actually introduced manifesto promises into the official document. I'm surprised, and I'm actually urging the ordinary Ghanaian to be mindful that this media review brings about nothing. In fact, I heard him also talk about the fact that they are intending to reduce the communication service tax from 9% to 5%. But the question is, who increased it in the first place? It's the same administration. And let us also be mindful that His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has said that from January 2021, this tax will be abolished. So all what they intend doing is to come here and tell all of us that they are trying to abolish it. In fact, there's nothing in this document for us to be proud of. And we in the minority wish to serve notice that from Monday, we are ready to debate this and subject it to the scrutiny that it deserves, because it has nothing, but rather it has brought, or is going to bring to ordinary Ghanaian some pain and hardship, because there's nothing in this budget that will alleviate our suffering. This is a failing government, a government that has already failed, and we are all aware of that. And let no one be deceived that this budget is going to bring us the hope. It is clear that this administration has spent 11.1 billion Ghana cedis on coronavirus without accounting for it. It is also clear that they have increased the public debt as at 30th of June 2020 from 120 billion to 255 billion. And they are going to spend additional 30 billion, borrow additional 30 billion to increase the public debt to approximately 280 billion. Clearly, they have failed. The year of growth has turned into a year of borrowing and showing nothing.
As the minority spokesperson there in charge of finance, Kisla Tuforsen, responding to the budget presented today. You're still listening to the Business Live here on Joy News with me, Charles Aite. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to give you reasons why you should be concerned about this particular budget, especially when there's been an extension of the bills on water and electricity for lifeline consumers. Just stay. And you're welcome back to Business Live on Joy News. Of course, today we're putting the center stage on exactly what the minister told us on the floor of Parliament regarding the mid-year review and supplementary budget estimates. There's been so much of talks on the numbers, figures. It's quite clear that our figures are going to be reviewed downwards. We did hear from the minister on that. The various targets cannot be set, hence the need for a review. If you're sitting home, you're wondering what exactly is in for me in this particular budget. Well, the minister has made it quite clear of plans to extend water and electricity bill for lifeline consumers. Here's exactly what he had to say on that.
It also why we further reduce electricity prices by half and completely provided portable water for free for everybody since March this year. And we will extend it for another 3 months. To break it down, Mr. Speaker, it takes a caring government of the people, and with that, I mean a government of all the people, to offer cost-free water to all across the country, representing all domestic and commercial customers in Ghana for 3 months. Mr. Speaker, it takes a caring government to be for the people and for business, large and small, to choose to subsidize electricity consumption by 50% to 4 million households and nearly 700,000 businesses at a cost of 1 billion in 3 months. And we will extend the coverage for lifeline customers for another 3 months. Mr. Speaker, it takes a caring government to hear the distress of business and respond with support to small and medium businesses to the tune of 600 million cedis in order to help them survive and thrive in these uncertain times.
Significant role in terms of its contribution to the GDP. Aside from the services sector, agric is second when it comes to its contribution to the country's GDP. To this effect, the finance minister stated quite clearly the need for some injection into the agric sector in order not to result in food insecurity amidst COVID-19. What could this really mean for the players on the ground, those who make sure that we get food time in and time out, our markets are filled with foodstuffs each and every time? Joining us is Anthony Morrison. He is the Agribusiness Chamber, the head of the Agribusiness Chamber. is going to be helping us with his analysis on what the finance minister rightly stated. So many thanks for your time, Anthony. You heard the finance minister. He laid bare the plan for the agri sector. Do you think it's enough to sustain the sector during these times of COVID-19?
Thank you very much, and a very good evening to your cherished listeners. Yes, it is an interesting budget. Myself and some other analysts did listen to this critically. We felt that considering the 2018 facts and figures from Ministry of Food and Agriculture, which I have in front of me, and also considering the budget for the 2020, the highlights that we were looking at, we would have expected something more robust in that we are in a pandemic situation, and as a country, we do have over 12 million people involved directly in agriculture. So one would have thought that we would have seen probably a major policy shift indeed to increase the food security challenges of the country, and also to look at the local content aspect of our productivity. But that notwithstanding, we do know that the PFJ, the 1D, 1F, the one village, one dam, the planting for food and exports, the rearing for food and jobs, and the greenhouse capacity building are some of the interventions. But these interventions, we've been doing some monitoring over the years, and realize that if you look at the poor within the rural sector, do not actually benefit essentially from this intervention. For instance, the minister mentioned that there are about 1.2 million farmers, rural folks, who are directly benefiting. So that gives you about only 10-point-something% of the 12 million agriculture population involved directly into agriculture. So the effect that you see, or one would have loved to appreciate on the limelight, is not being seen. The other areas that we should be looking at is that, yes, the COVID have brought some challenges, and especially if you look at the fact that over almost 55% of our budget that goes directly into agriculture are all from developing partners. And this is the time that is very critical. Funding is drying up. So we were expecting that we would have seen probably the setting up of the Agriculture Development and Investment Fund, which would have gone in to support some land preparations across board, and also help the local seed breeders, because that is the engine of the agriculture industry, especially when it comes to crops. So we've not seen any direct sort of support for these areas. And for me, that is a challenge. We have witnessed, or we have read documents coming from FAO about FAO trying to raise over 500 million plus in dollars to support struggling agriculture countries, and Ghana is not exception to that. So we were expecting to see, just as I said yesterday, that nothing less than $2 billion direct investment or support or stimulus package for the industry is likely not to serve as better going into the post-COVID industry. And for me, those are some of the things that are missing.
Needs more in these uncertain times. It's quite clear that your contribution is so much felt in the economy in these uncertain times. We're so grateful for your time there. And well, that's all time will allow us in this edition of the Business Live here on the Joy News channel with me, Charles Aite. For more news, you log on to myjoyonline.com/business to get yourself updated on all the stories regarding the mid-year budget review and estimates, including the reduction in the CST taxes. The amount of taxes you pay whilst on phone, on the internet and everything, that's from 9 to 5%. It's really a big deal for all the techpreneurs out there. We shall be detailing the analysis in our subsequent bulletins. Meanwhile, for me and the rest of the team, many thanks for watching.